question. There are so many opportunities to homeschool and so many different ways to do it. This is a way that Classical Conversations, I had started a co-op at my church, and we brought in moms, and we were teaching chemistry and basket weaving, and we were doing a little bit of everything. And I started realizing when my son was starting to hit high school that we needed something more to prepare him, to get him ready for college. And so CC happened to come into the area. And so I've been doing Classical Conversations for, Vicki, you and I started the same year. Is it 12 years?
We did. About 12 years, yeah.
Yep, we started the same year. Vicki and I actually started homeschooling together. Our oldest sons were 5 when we started homeschooling. And so I wanted just to share just a few minutes about this. We're just going to talk, kind of give you some ideas of what Classical Conversations is. We've got an information meeting, an online information meeting next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. We have the link at the end. And it has been such a beautiful thing for me personally to home educate. It was like everything I wanted was with Classical Conversations. And I wanted community. I wanted to be Christian. I wanted my kids to really learn how to reason and how to be persuasive in their communication, and also how to really break down some apologetic things, just to understand, science and some of the controversy that they're going to face, and with just even political ideas and thoughts. And so when we landed on CC, we were so blessed. And it's a program that's about a little over 20 years old. I think it's 22 years old, and it's was started from a gal in West End, North Carolina, and she was an aerospace engineer that started something in her living room, and within a year she had 200 students on a waiting list, and then just started putting something together that is nothing short of just beautiful. I mean, just the whole goal is to pursue truth and beauty and through education, but they do it through community. And so there are about 115,000 students that use it worldwide, actually. And we have about, probably 2,500 students, Oklahoma, that use Classical Conversations, communities all over the place. So I brought Vicki on to share her story. It's a fantastic story. And so Vicki, I'm handing it to you.
Okay. All right, everybody. I did make some notes. So if you see me looking down, I'm trying to stay on track. I told Kim to keep me accountable. Okay, so the picture you see on your screen is part of my lovely family. There's one daughter missing from that, but I am a mom of 5. These kids are a little bit older now. The oldest one, Zach, is 28, and the little one down there, she's now 14. So we're very bad. I guess we're so busy we don't know how to take a family picture, or all get us all in at one time. So forgive me for that. But so I just wanted to kind of share what my journey was of homeschooling. We all come to homeschooling for different reasons, and so it's good to hear the different motivations that get people here, right, where we all are. So after I got married and my husband and I were getting to the point where we were going to have kids, just randomly, I heard Dr. James Dobson talking about homeschooling. I never knew anyone that homeschooled. Not even sure I'd ever even heard of homeschooling before that. But when he was talking about it and he had the guest on, it really kind of piqued my interest. And it's like I felt in my heart, I think I'm going to homeschool my kids. I really was very excited about it. And I'm a product of public school. I don't have a problem with public school. It wasn't a horrible experience, but I can say that especially high school, public school was difficult, because if you're independent at all, it's very hard to find a place to fit in with people. And I think at the end of it, I think my education was fine, but when you have 25 kids in a class, you can only get so much help. And so that wasn't my motivation, but yet as I reflected on my own education, I thought I really want my kids to have something better than what I had. And and I was in all the gifted programs and all that. So don't get me wrong, I didn't have a bad education. It just was the thing that I was left with was like, I want them to have more. The other thing for me was it was very important that my kids had an education such that they had whatever opportunity they would avail themselves to. So I never really cared what my children chose to do. I want them to love the Lord. That's the first thing. And I want them to make themselves available to him so he can take them where he wants to take them. But I knew that if he wanted to take them to engineering, or if he wants to take them to medicine, or if he wants to take them anywhere like that, they would need a good education in order to follow his call. So those were the two things that I kind of came into this with. So the first multiple years of homeschooling, we sort of dove in because my husband and I were serving as missionaries in Malaysia when we had our first son. And so I was kind of like, okay, homeschooling. He was 5 years old. So I knew right then that was going to be my baptism by fire. So I grabbed my Abeka books because that's all I knew. I had a friend who homeschooled and they said, do this program. So I went to Malaysia with my Abeka books and I painstakingly taught my child to read, which is the hardest thing of homeschooling, I think. And we carried on from there. And over the years, another child, another child, another child. And we've done just about everything. So when we returned from Malaysia back to the States, I was pregnant with our third child. And I didn't know how I was going to unpack a house and do all these things. It happened to be August. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take this oldest boy and put him in a private Christian school half day while I sort of get back to my life in the United States. And that was fine. The Lord took care of him, but even the whole time he was there, I was kind of evaluating. What is he learning? What is he doing? He had a great teacher, loved her. And so we did that for a little while. And then I brought him home after kindergarten because we had settled in. And so we continued on our journey. And so over the years, I've had kids in private Christian school. I have two of my kids spent 1 year at public school, and we've been at couple of my older kids did a couple of high school years at a classical Christian school here in Tulsa. So aside from that, we have co-opted and done all kinds of things. We've done academic co-ops. We've done completely enrichment co-ops. But the thing that finally, and so when my kids were, I think I wrote down the ages here, somewhere around, my oldest was around 8th grade, and then the others tiered down to infant child. And I picked up this book, The Well-Trained Mind, and I started to read it because I was trying to bring some synthesis to all the things that I wanted to give my kids. And so someone told me about this book and I picked it up and I started to read about the classical model of education. And it just resonated with me, like the whole grammar stage, like when kids are little, they don't mind saying things over and over and repeating, and you can pack in facts. And I was thinking to myself, that is the truth. I have kids who literally could read the same book every day for 45 days. They could watch the same movie every day for a year and be very happy about it. So everything that I was reading in that book, I was like, this makes total sense, because your kids get to that junior high age and then they're starting to ask you why they have to do things. They've never asked you this before. They're more argumentative. And this is really what that book was laying out for me. So it really made me desire the classical model of education. So I tried to integrate that a little bit at home on my own. And it was okay. But remember, I have a child at this point entering high school, one in junior high, one in elementary school, one in kindergarten, and an infant. So I felt like I had a lot of irons in the fire and a lot of things to do. And I'm kind of a person also that enjoys camaraderie. So I always was holding hands out to get other people, like, we can do this together. Oh, it would be so much better. And so it still didn't feel really cohesive to me. And I got an invitation through email to come to what was called a practicum. And basically, I think the invitation started out with, do you love classical education? Are you interested in classical education? I was like, I'm interested, I'm trying. And so I got invited to a thing called a practicum. I had no idea what a practicum was, never been to a practicum before. And so I went, and I think Kim went to that same one that there. And there was a bunch of us just packed in a tiny little room, and we were listening to the presenter talking about this program, Classical Conversations. And it was really everything that I had thought I had been looking for. It was a way for all my elementary kids would be studying the same thing on the same week at the same time. And then my kids in junior high or high school, they were going to be able to give me a curriculum guide, which I consider my roadmap. I love that thing because I knew the 30 weeks they were going to be in class. I knew exactly what they were going to do with their tutor, and I knew exactly what we were going to do at home. So they study at home 4 days a week, and they meet with their community. If they're in the elementary years, they have 8 in their class, which is max. And if in the high school and junior high years, 12 kids in the class.
Yeah.
So that's great environment. You're going to have good conversations. There's enough kids that they can make a close group of friends, not too many kids that they feel lost. And so just everything about that program seemed to be what I had been looking for. And so we, of course, jumped in right then. And my oldest child was 14. So I'd been homeschooling for a long time, 10 years already, when I found CC. And so here I am 12 years later, and we've never varied off that path. I love CC. I consider myself a missionary for classical conversations because I believe in it so much. Not only have my kids gotten a great education, they have learned so many hard things. They have learned, here's what I love about it. So I'm not just teaching my kids subjects, right? I didn't just give them math and literature and these things. What I'm teaching them is the skill to learn different things. That's what they've been doing in their educational time with classical conversations. They are learning the skills of research and the skills of thinking and defending their faith or defending their position. There's so many things that they're learning. And while they're learning it, I'm giving them things that are true and good and beautiful to think about associated with that. So the literature I've handed to them are full of whole stories that show real heroes and people who have struggled and come out on the other side, and they're learning and they're discussing these ideas and talking to them. And so, and at the same time, I have found that I've redeemed my own education, the gaps and the holes, the areas that I wasn't interested perhaps when I was in high school. I've seen those things come to life even in myself. So that has been a real benefit. And mostly what I've appreciated about the classical model and about the community that we have at CC is that in all things, it's always pointing back to the reason why these things are important is because God is in them all. He's made them all. He's integrated them all together. And so sometimes when my kids over the years, and they all say it, why do I have to learn this algebra? When am I ever going to use this in my real life? Things like that. And I say to them, math is God's language. Everything that we know about the structure of the universe, we can understand through mathematics. And in that, I think that it doesn't always push them over, but it does make them think. Like, if this is the way that God showed man how things work, then I should value it enough to know what I need to know. And as if they love mathematics, obviously they're going to go on and do something in that area. And if they don't, but they study diligently, day by day, year by year, they have a higher level of thinking because they understand math and they've done the hard work to finish the course. So they've had a great education. I have redeemed my education. I feel like I'm pretty well educated, even aside from the college part, And the other thing is my goal, or my desire, I'm going to say, my desire for them that they love God is intact, and they know him, and they are able to help other people come to know him as well. And so, I literally could go on for an hour on this subject, but I wanted to keep it brief and just share. And but that's kind of it in a nutshell. I really feel like CC came to me at the right time. It has helped me stay on track. People sometimes say that I have ADD because I like to do multiple things at the same time. And one of the weaknesses I knew about myself was I get bored. So when I'm teaching my child to handwrite, or I'm teaching my child to read, I am way past that stage. And so I could get bored So what I appreciated is was the other moms that were around me to help me stay stable. And also, I always had that map. I always know where I was starting from, and I always knew where I needed to go to. And even if I fell a little bit behind, or we had a family emergency, or we wanted to take a vacation, I could come back to that map and say, okay, here's where I am. We're a little bit behind where we wanted to be, but this is where we need to start to finish. And so, and CC has provided our family all of those tools, and I'm grateful and I am appreciative. And I tell people all the time, there's no better thing that you can do with your kids than this education. But and I'm strictly biased because it's something that I have loved for 12 years.
Well, Vicki, thank you. I love your story. And so Vicki teaches the juniors, and give just a quick little sampling of what were some of your, well, actually, Krista and Vicki and I both teach all 11th graders. So tell us a little bit about what you guys did this year in your studies.
Well, since Krista's not here, I'll hop on. In fact, I'm sitting at my desk. Oh, so I'll tell you this. Our class, all of our students read this book. Tell how thick this book is. This is American history. So we dive in deeply into American history, not just the who, but the why and what was the consequence of action. So we talk about that quite a bit. Another one of my favorites is philosophy. We talk about philosophy in order to understand other ideas beside our own, to compare it with the philosophy of the scripture, so that's another thing, preparing them for leadership and to be ready because they only have 1 year to work it out before they go to college. So I'm going to pass over to Krista because she's here.
So yeah, the juniors are fun. And I think one of my favorite parts of it is that I get to help coach them in writing. Because that's something I have access to. I know not all directors have that ability, but I think that's great fun because we get to watch them go from writing short and really specific essays to writing longer research papers with their own ideas included in an appropriate way.
So one of the things, I'm glad you mentioned that, one of the things that happens in middle school to high school with classical conversation students is we really put a big emphasis on presenting their ideas in a small group. So they learn how to talk about, by the tutor asking really good questions, and as they mature through the program, they end up being student leaders of the discussions as well, and they end up doing a lot of presenting. And what I loved about CC personally was the things that I was having a difficult time doing at home by ourselves. CC gave us a vehicle to do that, such as in elementary school, they start as simple as show and tell, but the kids start learning how to do little speeches each week. And then as they move through middle school and high school, they do everything from mock trials to debates to presentations and dramas interpretations, interpretive speeches and impromptu speeches. So it's just very much helping a student feel comfortable in communicating their ideas and their thoughts. We've got a couple of stats up here that we'll just, Chris, I'll just let you go to the next slide. And I wanted just to spend a few minutes talking about kind of how the model works. We have campuses all over Oklahoma and all over the United States, and we keep our challenge classes, which we call our challenges, our middle school and high school kids, to a class size of 12 or under with one tutor. We meet 30 days a week. 30 days a year. 30 days a week would be difficult. 30 days a year, and they're given a guide that Vicki had mentioned, and the parent and the student has the same guide as the tutor, and so everything in that guide is everything you do for the entire year. And they are presented with their work. They go home and work for 4 days, and they have accountability because they have a tutor and a class is expecting to come back with their work done. And we, so it's mostly is at home, but that community day is really important. We get to share ideas, get to share, basically get to enjoy each other and enjoy learning about what their peers have learned, and have lunch together and have fun together. So it gives them a sense of community. And it has been, I think, for anybody that's part of a CC community, is probably one of the most powerful parts of the program, is that we get to do life together. And then we keep our class sizes to 12, and sometimes you'll have a class of 6, just depending on where it's at, what level your class is in. And then elementary kids, they meet 24 weeks of the year, so they meet a little bit less. And it's just an incredible program that it keeps you in track, is what Vicki said, and offers you'll get more than enough credits. I think most kids, by the time they're juniors, have plenty of credits to graduate from high school, but we're not really looking at credits. It's more of just our heart is to educate our kids' souls, and give them. We do formal logic as well, and teaching them to think and to reason clearly. And so anyway, that is just a little bit of our model of what we do. And Vicki, why don't you close us up?
Well, I just want to mention on the last couple slides where it showed the standardized testing scores and all of that, what I did want to say about that is with CC, that's the kind of work that our kids can do on a standardized test, and we don't emphasize any testing. We don't study to test. We just emphasize the skills of learning. And so love those slides. Mm-hmm. Anyway, if you want to know more about classical conversations, and you do, we're going to have a follow-up information meeting coming up, and I think those meeting times and places will be posted where, Kim?
They can go to the event calendar on CC's website, and they can find it. They can locate it. So
if they go to classical conversation, if they go to classicalconversations.com and they click on the event calendar, there is a link to the information for this meeting. They can look it up by the date, which is April 28th.
At 8 p.m. And also, if they want to email me at kford@classicalconversations.com, I'm glad to get them the link. So glad to do that to them. So thank you all. It was a blessing to be with you. Sure enjoyed it.